Island hopping, also called leapfrogging, was a strategy developed before the war known as War Plan Orange. Planners felt that it would allow U.S. forces to reach Japan quickly without expending the time, manpower, and supplies to capture every Japanese-held island in the Pacific. The island hopping strategy would involve two prongs: a force led by Admiral Chester Nimitz with a smaller land force but a larger fleet would advance north to capture the Gilbert and Marshall Islands, the Marianas, going generally in the direction of the Bonin Islands. The southern prong, led by General MacArthur with larger land forces, would take the Solomons, New Guinea, the Bismarck Archipelago, advancing towards the Philippines. Island hopping targeted key islands in order to capture and build airstrips, while bypassing others. There were two main goals: to get close enough to Japan's mainland so that Allied forces could launch B-29 bombers, and to cut off vital supply lanes to Japan. The islands were usually well defended by entrenched fortified Japanese troops. With each new beach came new terrain with unforeseen complications and challenges. Along with fighting the Japanese, forces had to worry about terrified civilians, some of which would rather die than surrender to Allied forces. After the stunning defeat of the Japanese Navy at Midway, Allied forces in the Pacific found themselves with the opportunity to seize the initiative, the power to make the enemy's movement conform to your own. Admiral Ernest King chose Guadalcanal to thwart the Japanese advance in the southwestern Pacific. The objective was Guadalcanal's prized airfield, later named Henderson Field, and the control of the area's airspace and sea lanes. The Green 1st Marine Division achieved tactical surprise and their landing met only light resistance. The Japanese counterattacked, landing troops regularly at nighttime by what came to be called the Tokyo Express. Marines had come ashore with a scant 10-day supply of food and ammo. When the Navy withdrew to protect their valuable fleet, Marines were left to fight on their own, sometimes subsisting on captured Japanese ration. The nickname Operation Shoestring was born. The Marines experienced months of close-in, brutal jungle combat, confronting mass human waves of soldiers in banzai attacks. The Navy fought a series of vicious night actions in the slot. So many ships sunk that the passage was nicknamed Iron Bottom Sound. The Cactus Air Force, based at Henderson Field, provided vital air superiority. In February 1943, the Japanese withdrew, remaining on the defensive for the rest of the war. The Allies would begin their island-hopping campaign. The battle-tested 1st Marine Division rekindled their nickname, the Old Breed, their patch proudly inscribed with Guadalcanal. Operation Galvanic, the assault on Tarawa Atoll, was the first battle of the island-hopping campaign. The small island was strategically important because it posed a threat to sea lanes from Hawaii to the South Pacific. The landing force would be the Marines' first self-contained amphibious operation, combining assault forces, naval bombardment, and air support under one commander. For the first time, Marines would employ LVTs, Landing Vehicle Tracked, which would prove superior to the floundering Higgins boats for traversing the island reefs. Tarawa was the first U.S. assault on a prepared, well-defended Japanese-held island. Fierce Japanese defense held the initial assault waves in check. Photos published in the U.S. of Marine bodies lying in the surf gave the American public a grisly picture of the Pacific War. American casualties were very high. Over a fourth of the Marines were killed or wounded. Of nearly 4,900 Japanese defenders, 97% were killed. The costly but valuable lessons learned would save many U.S. lives in future island-hopping campaigns. The objective of Operation Forager, the invasion of the Marianas Islands, was an ideal staging location for the invasion of Japan and air bases that would allow B-29s to reach the home island. Incorporating the hard-earned lessons from Tarawa, The assault forces breached coastal defenses and moved inland, again to face banzai charges and fierce Japanese defense. The Marianas battles marked the first time the island-hopping campaign was fought in close proximity to civilians. Thousands of civilians and soldiers would leap to their deaths from cliffs to avoid capture by U.S. forces. The Japanese Navy took the bait, and the Battle of the Philippine Sea eliminated the Imperial Japanese Navy from effectively challenging the U.S. Navy for the remainder of the war. 3 Japanese carriers were sunk and over 400 aircraft lost in the air battles nicknamed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Taking off from air bases constructed on Tinian, B-29s would firebomb Tokyo and drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In mid-1944, President Roosevelt met with MacArthur and Nimitz. Nimitz wanted to maintain the momentum through the Central Pacific to Okinawa. MacArthur demanded the liberation of the Philippines as he'd promised. MacArthur's plan called for the capture of the Palau Islands to protect his flank. Nimitz questioned its strategic value. Roosevelt sided with MacArthur. The 1st Marine Division expected a hard-fought amphibious landing at Peleliu and a rapid 4-day campaign. The Japanese commander changed tactics by giving up the beaches for a fortified labyrinth of caves and defenses in the Amubergal Mountain. The Battle of Peleliu would last over 2 months, costing over 6,000 Marine casualties to secure the island. The strategic value of Peleliu is still in question today. Marine lore refers to Peleliu as the bitterest battle of the war. Okinawa is a small island only about 350 miles south of the Japanese mainland. Japanese leadership placed great importance on Okinawa as a decisive battle, hoping a bloody defensive stand would allow a negotiated truce to the end of the war. D-Day at Okinawa was Easter Sunday, 1945. The initial landing was nearly the same scale as the first wave of Normandy, 2 Marine and 2 Army divisions, and was mostly unopposed. The Japanese withdrew to a line of well-fortified defensive on the southern end of the island and fought with determined, suicidal ferocity. Okinawa was heavily populated with civilians. Many would become casualties of the battle. Offshore, the naval battle raged with relentless Japanese kamikaze attacks. Nearly 2,000 suicide sorties sunk 36 Allied ships. After 12 weeks, the fighting ended. The human cost was immense, clearly the worst of the Pacific Island operations. 7,600 U.S. soldiers and Marines killed, along with 4,900 sailors. Of the Japanese garrison of 120,000 men, 90% were killed. Civilian casualties were estimated at 140,000 men, women, and children dead. Bloody Okinawa had much influence on war planners as they prepared for an attack on the Japanese homeland. President Truman said he was afraid that an invasion of Japan would look like Okinawa from one end of Japan to the other. 6 weeks after the battle, the president ordered an atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima by a B-29 launched from the island of Tinian.